You've said that you and your family, your wife and three kids, might one day move away from the UK and from Europe altogether. Why do you say this? What is it that has changed for you? Why do you no longer feel comfortable in the place where you were born and raised?
Look, first, thanks for having me for this discussion. Look, I am as Scottish as they come. Born in Scotland, raised in Scotland, raising my children in Scotland. Was the head of the Scottish government. If you cut me open, I'm as Scottish as you get. But in not just Scotland, more so the UK, Europe, the Western world, we're seeing the rise of the far right. And the rise of the far right is being driven by anti-Muslim hatred, whether it's the National Front in France, the AFD party in Germany, the Party of Freedom in the Netherlands, or whether it's the rise of people like Nigel Farage, who has made an entire career out of anti-Muslim hatred. And then, of course, in the summer we had the riots in Southport, where mosques were attacked, where Muslims were targeted, black and Asian people were targeted. Now, I'm a father, first and foremost. People talk to me about being the former First Minister or a politician of over 13 years. Well, my first job is being a father. And the question is, can I guarantee that my children, young female Muslim children, will they be safe in the UK in the future? And the truthful answer to that is, I don't know. And that's what makes me question whether or not we have a future in the United Kingdom.
I mean, that's a really big statement you've just made there. You are worried for the safety of your children, especially the girls.
I'm not the only one. Every Muslim I talk to in the United Kingdom is asking themselves, do we have a future in this country? And by the way, let me just make it abundantly clear, I don't want to leave. Why would I want to leave my country? I won't lie, the weather in Scotland is not quite as nice as it is here, but it is my home. And I love Scotland. I love the people of Scotland. I love the food. I love the culture. I love the scenery. I love the wonderful history of the country. But ultimately, as a father, I have to think about, will they be safe? And as I say, I can't give a definitive answer to that. And I know so many Muslims are looking at the direction that the UK, that Europe, and many places in the West are going, and wondering, actually, will Muslims be safe here in the future?
Populism didn't emerge from a vacuum, right? It's come from decades of anti-migrant, anti-Muslim rhetoric. Has it exposed something which already existed and was probably quite deeply embedded in society and even in the political discourse?
Well, I think you've just hit the nail on the head. What politicians' job is to do is to lead. And what politicians of successive governments in Westminster have failed to do is lead. So if I give you the example of migration, so for the UK, migration has been beneficial. Migrants have given more than they take. They've created jobs, they've created wealth. Now, instead of talking up the benefits of migration, the successive politicians have blamed migrants for the housing crisis or for the economic crisis, instead of their own failures, because it's always easier to point to the migrant. And now, of course, that anti-migrant, anti-Muslim rhetoric has gone from the fringes to the mainstream of our politics, and that's what's deeply worrying.
Does it disappoint you, though, as someone who is very much attached to your home country? You were just saying that you very much identify with being from Scotland. Does it disappoint you that it's been so seemingly easy for the politicians to exploit the very worst instincts in people?
So disappointment isn't the word I would use. Anger is the word I would use. It's made me beyond angry that politicians have failed to really address the systemic issues in our society and done the easy thing, which is blame somebody else. So if I give you just the example of housing, there's a housing crisis in many parts of England, London, the South East, and what successive UK governments have done is sold off council houses and not replenished them. So you've done that over decades, since 1979, 6.5 million council houses. Now they've dropped by a couple of million at least, if not more. And what politicians have done is said, well, it's the migrants' fault. It's not the migrant who's taking your house, it's the fact that politicians have sold off your social housing stock. So it angers me that politicians have used migrants, used Muslims, used the other as a point of failure as opposed to their own failures. And that has now led to a situation where anti-migrant rhetoric, where dog whistles against Muslims are now being conducted in the very mainstream of our politics, and I fear that will only get worse.
But where are the other leaders? Where is the counter-argument to this? Why have we not figured out a way to respond more effectively to the rise of this nationalism, this xenophobia, this populism?
Well, look, I think there is an example in Scotland. I'm biased, perhaps, to a point. But if I take the history of the Scottish Parliament is 25 years old. In those 25 years, whichever political party, Labour or the SNP, the Scottish National Party, they've talked up immigration because Scotland has needed immigration. Our population historically was declining. We have an ageing demographic. And as a result, the view of immigration in Scotland is more positive than the rest of the UK. So I go back to my very important starting point. Politicians have to lead on this. And what we need from those who are centre-left, who are progressive, who believe in migration and the benefits of it, is to start talking up migration. And that's my challenge to the Prime Minister, to Keir Starmer, is if you believe that migration is good for this country, good for the United Kingdom, don't join in the race to the bottom. Talk it up, be brave, and let people lead the country, and people will follow you.
I know that you said you see yourself first and foremost as a father and safeguarding your family, but you're also Scotland's first Muslim leader. How do you plan to ensure that religious freedom and multiculturalism continue to be an integral part of Scotland's identity? What can figures like yourself do to contribute to that part of the debate, to work with civil society on this?
Well, I think first and foremost, we try to create a united front. So I'm really proud of being in my party for 20 years. But let's reach out across the political divide and say, look, as a nation, we only benefit from multiculturalism. We only benefit from diversity. We only benefit from the fact that we can all go on this journey as a nation together. And I think that means even when the political winds change, as they always do, eventually in time, that regardless of who's in power, we can move together forward as a nation.
HumzaYousaf, thank you very much for joining us on Viewpoint.
Great pleasure. Thank you.